Hello and welcome back to Business Happy Hour. I cannot believe that as I'm recording this, it is September and I can't wait to chat with you guys today. So, today I really wanted to talk about components of an irresistible offer. So, obviously, if there is any sort of kink in your sales process, you're not seeing the amount of sales that you would like to see. There are many things or kinks that we would want to look at. And one of those things is how you create your offers, how you structure your offers. And all of these, we're going to talk about 7 different components today on what you can do to your offer to ensure that it is an irresistible offer and that the kink in your sales process has nothing to do with your offer and your offer is clean, spick, span. I'm picturing myself putting compound on the wall and smoothing it out. And that's how perfect your offer is. I am off of the DIY kick that I had this weekend. I redid my entire wall that's behind my TV. My dad helped me hang the TV. And then we put this picture frame molding on the wall. And it was, let me tell you, an experience. Okay. But it was great. It was a great time. It was some great quality time. And it was fun. It was fun. It was really cool to see it all come to life and it looks freaking incredible now. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. So, all right, cool. Let's dive into the 7 components of your irresistible offer. And I'm just going to kind of go through all 7 and then we'll kind of dive into each on a deeper level. So the 7 components of an irresistible offer are properly conveying the perception of value. So perception of value and how you communicate that is number 1. How you strategically place it in your product suite. So product suite is essentially number 2. Your messaging, which can go along with the communication of the offer, but does your messaging speak properly and in an irresistible manner to your ideal client? Are you solving a strong enough problem? And are you placing it as a surefire way to be the solution? Do you facilitate incredible experiences for your clients? Because having an irresistible offer, it might get them in the door, but continuing to fill that irresistible offer is not going to happen unless you're providing your current clients with that incredible experience. What are we on now? Number 6 is intentional pricing and the structure of your pricing and where it fits amongst the product suite in terms of your pricing. And lastly, magnetic personal branding, or even just branding of the offer itself, depending on how you market and brand yourself. Okay. So let's first dive into perception of value. And the question that I want you to ask yourself is, if you had to get on stage and sell your offer, would you know how to make people go, oh, gosh, this is incredible and I need this right now? Would you know how to do that? You might in the back of your mind just be like, oh, I think my offer is really great. I know it's inside, but I call it you don't know how to match your content to your genius, right? So in your offer, there's so much genius and there's so much power and there's so much transformation that can occur as a result of your offer, but you're not properly conveying that to your audience. So your audience is like, all right, I know she has this offer called, I don't know, I'll just use my offer creation program, Irresistible Offer Incubator, but it's not irresistible because I just know she has it, right? There's the offer awareness, but there's not the pull to be like, I need to be inside this program. Okay. So I want you to think about that. Do you feel confident if you were to get on stage to say, hey, this is what I sell. This is what I offer. And here is how it's going to help you. Can you convey that without it being like, hey, here's how I can help you? It's like, what are the words? And this kind of will flow into the messaging aspect. What are the words? What are the choices of words and sentences and that you would use that will captivate your audience and make your offer irresistible? Because obviously the content's important once they're inside of the offer, but prior to that, all of the selling, all of the marketing, it doesn't matter how good your offer is. If you don't know how to sell it, you don't know how to sell it, right? So, how are you actually conveying and perceiving the value to your audience of how incredible it actually is? Okay, that's the first thing I want you to think about. Next is how you're strategically placing it in your product suite. Now, if this is your first offer, right, maybe it's your one-on-one coaching program, then this is a little bit different. But essentially, when you're creating your first offer, again, let's just, for the sake of this conversation, say that it's a one-on-one coaching program, then you're starting to build out a component of your product suite. Eventually you'll build it out further, but you want to be conscious of where you eventually want that one-on-one coaching to sit in your product suite. It might be at the very tippy top of your product suite. That's typically where it sits, right? One-on-one coaching, because it's people pay the most to have the most access to you. But it depends what other offerings you may have. You might have done for you services, and that might be higher because it's not necessarily coaching. So that's another thing that you want to think about. Now, why does this contribute to how irresistible your offer is? This is because if you are selling, this is less of public selling and more kind of like behind the scenes, but let's say, for example, you have a lower ticket offer. Let's say it's $200, right? Well, your next level offer, let's say it's that one-on-one coaching, is going to be so much more irresistible if you are planting the seed for that next offer already in the lower ticket offer. You're making that next step that much more irresistible because they are already getting awareness around it. They're already starting to understand what is the next step, and it just makes sense. So where you place your offers in your product suite and the customer journey is extremely, extremely important for this reason. Okay. Number 3 is messaging. Now, again, this kind of coincides with the perception of value, but when you think about the messaging of your offer, the way that I like to think about it is with something that I call anchors. So, do you have anchors that maybe it's 3 to 5 anchors that you can use in your messaging to solidify your offer? So, let's say you're selling something, again, I'm going to use irresistible offer incubator. Okay. So I need to have 3 to 5 anchors for those, for that offer. And then from there, I'm able to pull my messaging from each of those anchors. Now, if you want to learn to create your own anchors, just DM me on Instagram, Mastery, and you'll get instant access to my messaging mastery Instagram, not Instagram course. I mean, I guess you'd call it Instagram course, but you'll get access to my free mini course, and I will literally give you exact templates to create your anchors so that you feel really clear on your offer messaging, which is very exciting, right? So message me Mastery if you want access to that for entirely free. Okay. Now, the next is solving a problem and positioning yourself as a solution. Now, again, some of these things are slightly redundant in the sense that, like, if you have your messaging on point, then chances are you would be solving a problem with your language and positioning your offer as a solution. But let's say that you created an offer and you're like, well, I just want to teach people, I don't know, spirituality. Okay, well then in your messaging, why should people want to know about spirituality? What is their problem? What are the types of people that you want to speak to that need to know more about spirituality? And how is your offer providing them a solution? Because if you're just marketing and you're like, hey, I have this offer that's going to teach you about spirituality, a lot of people, unless they're actively searching for something that literally says, I want to learn to be spiritual, it's going to be harder to sell versus if you have an offer that's that in your marketing, you're telling them why it matters to them for them to learn about spirituality. Does that make sense? Okay. And then next we have facilitate phenomenal experiences. So again, kind of this and the product suite are less forward facing and more like longevity of your irresistible offer. But when you learn and you know how to facilitate these phenomenal experiences, it's going to be a domino effect, right? Because you are going to have so many people that are having such a great experience that one of a few things will happen. You'll get referrals to that program. You will get incredible wins and testimonials that you can share, which that proof quickly builds trust and gets your audience to purchase from you faster. And you are extending the longevity of that client that had that phenomenal experience because they're going to want to continue to work with you. Okay. So it doesn't stop at like, oh my God, I made the sale. Like the experience is incredibly, incredibly important to the longevity of your business. Okay. And then intentional pricing structure. So for the pricing structure, we want to ensure that it makes sense in a few different ways. Now, I go back and forth. It depends on the season of business, right? Like I've had seasons in my business where I'm like, my pricing doesn't fucking make sense. And not in the sense of like it doesn't make sense with my product suite, more in the sense of like, oh my gosh, this doesn't make sense. I'm pricing myself out of the market technically, right? But at the same time, the intention at that time was, hey, I'm raising my one-on-one coaching prices and they're a lot higher than some of my quote unquote competitors, but that's very intentional, right? Because I'm not trying to get more one-on-one clients at that point in time, right? So if you're trying to create an irresistible offer, you might be in a season where you're like, hey, I want it to be in between no-brainer price point and like but also not cheapening my services and making myself look like, oh, I offer discount services, if that makes sense, right? Like you have to think about, do you want to be the TJ Maxx and Marshalls of your niche, which nothing wrong, there's good shit there. Or do you want to be the Gucci Louis Vuitton of your niche, right? Both are totally cool. Or do you want to be somewhere in the middle? Maybe you want to be like the Abercrombie, right? The cool kid, but like prices aren't astronomical, but they're, it's a good product. So you have to think about that in terms of pricing, and this will always change. My pricing has changed so many times over the years. And just because you increase or you lower, whatever it is, it doesn't have to mean anything. It's like, hey, there are seasons where you might want to stretch your limits in terms of what you price things at. And then there might be times where you want to just feel good about like, hey, I know that people can pay this price. I know people are going to pay this price. And I just really want to have more clients and I want to make more of an impact right now and I want to help more people. So you get to decide that. But when I say intentional pricing structure, I mean it in the way of mostly like your product suite. So if your product suite is low ticket, mid ticket, high ticket offers, and it's like you're expecting someone to go from a $20 offer to a $3,000 offer to a $7,000 offer. Those are very big gaps. Now, for some people, you might be able to make it happen. It totally depends on your product and a ton of things, right? But you want to actually make sure that that customer journey is working. Okay. So for your irresistible offer, whatever that may be, whichever you're working on, you want to make sure that the pricing is very intentional with the goal and aligned with the goal that you want to achieve. So if the goal is like, hey, I just want a low ticket offer to get more people in, great. Then you're going to price that at a lower ticket. Whereas you're like, hey, I don't really want a lot of one-on-one clients right now. I want maybe one or two because my time is precious, but I still want those clients. Then you're going to price it higher, right? So it just depends on your goals. This is all very individualized. And then lastly, is magnetic personal branding. So I personally do branding for every single one of my offers. And I really enjoy that. It's one of my favorite things to do, branding, the graphics, all that fun stuff. So I don't really mind when I have to like create new branding. Now, on a broader level, the branding of my actual page is a whole nother story, right? So the branding of my actual page is different than what I do for my individual offers. Now you can take one of two approaches. You can have your overall brand, and then you just have your offers within it that kind of fit into the brand, or you can have separate branding for your individual offers. Now it's either way, it's all going to be under the umbrella of your brand, but just something to think about. Now, when I say magnetic branding, there are a few components that come to mind. And honestly, it all comes down to what I'm telling you are the components of an irresistible offer. It's the same thing. Because I mean, there's a few additional things, but magnetic personal branding is the messaging, how you speak to your audience, all these things. But then there's another component of like who you are. How are they actually connecting with you? How are you becoming magnetic? One of my favorite ways to do this is to again, kind of coming back to the branding aspect. I love the colors, I love the fonts. So for me, I create like a brand aesthetic board just on Canva. I'll pick some colors, I will pick my fonts, and I will kind of pick some photos that I want my brand to elicit. So a while back, I remember I put some photos on my story and I was like, when you think of me, which photo would you think of most? And one was like an Aperol spritz on a rooftop. One was like a cozy, like having a coffee, I don't know, like a cozy couch, one was like a very cityscape photo. Uh and actually, this was when I was doing my branding for Business Happy Hour. And I was trying to figure out how I wanted to brand it, how I wanted people to think of me. And a lot of people voted the Aperol Spritz on the rooftop. And I was like, ooh, what if it was like happy hour, something with happy hour? And so I called it Business Happy Hour. And now here we are. And you're listening to Business Happy Hour. So good times, but magnetic personal branding is definitely a component of this. So if you guys have any questions for me ever at all, feel free to shoot me a DM. If you want access to those anchor templates that will help you create the actual messaging for your offer, then message me on Instagram at it's Lauren Sharpe with an E at the end, and you'll get instant access to that. And if you're just ready to build your offer out and you really want to make sure that your offer is going to sell the way that you want it to sell, then you can DM me offer and I will send you all the details of how you can get inside there and start selling the shit out of your incredibly irresistible offer. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.